What's good, Eagles fans? This is your guys, Tone DeShields II, and I'm joined by my brother in arms, my bird of a feather, Philly Foothills from the Nest Out West. Super grateful to be here with my man. As always, the energy is always great. How you feeling, Phil Hills?
I'm feeling blessed, my guy. Definitely happy to be here.
Yes,
Happy
sir.
to happy to be providing this good content for everybody out there watching it, and always grateful to be working with my guy here, Tone DeShields, one of the best in the biz in my opinion. And yeah, we're growing this thing together. So yeah, officially episode 2 of Birds of the Feather, the podcast, and
Yes.
I love the name, and I love the game. I love the energy that we bring, and definitely really wanting to tackle this 2022 and make this a really good year. And I'm excited. I really am, Tone.
No, I agree with you, man. You brought up a good point. Like the name of the podcast is pretty dope to me. Uh, in my opinion,
It's
when you
fuego.
came to me, it's fuego. When you came to me with the idea, right? Soon as you sent it to me, I was like, I like that. I
Yeah,
like that, man. You know, there's a there's a there's a familial feel to it. You know what I mean?
exactly.
And like in this content game, you begin to build relationships, you build a network, and you start to establish, strong connections with people. And from the beginning, when you and I were coming up, it seemed like you and I were just starting to build that chemistry, build that bromance, so to
Yeah.
speak, right?
Yep.
Man. So I'm glad we're doing this. I'm glad we're building this project of ours, this
Yes.
podcast. You know, I love the fact that we're streaming on 2 channels. We're streaming on Chalk It Up Sports Philly, and we're also streaming on the Nest Out West. Make sure you guys go subscribe to both channels if you haven't already, and also make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe for more content from myself and also from my brother in arms, Philly Foothills. But it's
Sure.
Dallas week, you guys. It's week 18. It's the final. It's the mic drop of the season. It's the last call,
Week
and
18. Doesn't that still sound weird to say? Week 18.
it sounds strange.
It really does. And I mean, the NFL. I mean, for the amount of teams that are really have anything to play for today, there's only really a couple of games. I think the rest of the teams are going to be, yes, they're going to be playing some of their starters, but I mean, it really is going to be like a third preseason game today. It really is. It's going to be crazy. They're going to see, especially in our game, you're going to see a lot of backups. I mean, Tone, do you even think that, do you think our starters are going to play today? And if so, how much?
That's a very good question. All right, now when you think about it from the perspective of, we do have some guys who are a bit banged up. Guys like Miles Sanders with a broken hand, Boston Scott, um, Jordan Howard, things like that. Those guys are banged up. Dallas Goddard, Jack Stoll. Well, actually, wow, like this is starting to become very interesting. So, to answer your question directly, I think some starters are going to play. I do think that's going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if all the rookies play too. I know Devontae Smith said he wanted to play. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays. Quez Watkins, Jalen Rager. Those guys that hardly get hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's funny. I've been on the fence about this whole situation because I am a huge believer in momentum. In the same token, I do believe in resting guys and making sure these guys are fully are at their best physically, mentally and emotionally. Right.
Yeah.
This game of football. You leave a little piece of yourself on the field every time you touch the turf, and some guys come out fully intact. Some guys don't come out the same, and the last thing we need is to have some major laws suffer major casualties, excuse me, through a week 18 matchup with the Cowboys that ultimately doesn't mean much for our playoff implications, but it does mean a lot as far as seeding goes. It's funny because there are so many possibilities with this game when it comes to seeding, right? Uh,
Well,
if
I mean, neither team benefits directly from winning today. They have to have help to move up in the seeding, possibly. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think we may see the starters for a quarter, maybe less than that. It's going to be interesting because I think I think Sirianni and company are going to want to play it on the safer side, just like you said, to rest guys, to make sure that we're as healthy as possible going into the wild card round. Because right now we still don't even know who our opponent's going to be. It could be these Cowboys. It could be the Rams. It could be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Most scenarios are pointing towards the Bucs, but hell, it could even end up being the Arizona Cardinals. That's kind of a long shot, but I think that I think the starters probably get a quarter, and then you're going to see the backups from there. And for Dallas, I don't know. I think they may just rest their starters altogether.
Yeah, it's funny you brought that up, right? Because Jerry Jones, he's a guy who believes in his Cowboys pride, right?
Right.
And earlier on in the week, not just him, but Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, those main pillars on that offense, they all mentioned that they're playing. Now that all remains to be seen still.
Right.
And, until we actually see who laces it up, until we actually see who's on the sidelines and on the field. But Jerry Jones, he wants all his guys to start. Now, for those guys, that may not be the best decision because they have a potential to be a second, third seed, something like that, if they win. And regardless, at the end of the day, how much more does it benefit you? Sure, if you're the second seed, you can guarantee yourself a home game at some point, maybe depending on how things fall.
Right.
But for us in particular, I don't really care how it affects them. I more so care how it affects us. And if there's only about 3 ways that we can clinch the 6th seed. Currently, we're the 7th seed. We can clinch the 6th seed in 3 ways. The first route is win, and the 49ers loss or tie, or if we tie, 49ers loss, or if the Niners lose and a Saints win. So those are the 3 scenarios that have to happen in order for us to clinch the 6th seed. Now, if we're the 7th seed, if we stay locked up there, obviously that means we lost or tied and the 49ers tied as well, or we lost and the Saints lost or tied, or the 49ers just straight up win. So the bottom line for me, there's a full smorgasbord of opponents that we can have at our disposal if we remain the 7th seed. If we get up to the 6th seed, our destiny is more so locked in, and 9 times out of 10 we're going to run into the Bucs, I believe. So, like you said, all vision is pointing in that direction towards the Bucs, and we ran up against those guys earlier this season, and it didn't really bode well for us. But we were very much in that game, and we only lost by 1 possession.
Right, and they're a much different team now, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They've lost Fournette, they've lost Godwin, and now they've lost Antonio Brown.
Absolutely.
And yeah, they still got Gronk. Tom Brady has worked with less. But my fear for them is, their running game is not going to be enough in the playoffs. And their secondary is going to get beat up, I think, in the playoffs as well. So, we'll see, but it's definitely not looking like it's trending in the right direction for the Bucs right now. We'll see how they respond this week. I mean, they have a lesser opponent in the Carolina Panthers, so they should win. And hopefully Tom Brady helps me get to my fantasy football championship victory today, or this weekend, I should say.
Man, it's funny because you brought up Antonio Brown, right? And that is such a unique situation that's going on over there. I feel like it's very simple, and this is just my perspective. I feel like it's very simple to boil that situation down to just mental health issues, right? I feel like that's an oversimplification. When you think about it from his perspective of he claimed, and there were multiple stories out there, by the way. There was a story out there saying, or a rumor rather, saying that, they sat him because he was about to reach his incentives. There was also a rumor out there that he potentially or allegedly had a severe ankle injury, and he couldn't go out there. And Bruce Arians told him to go out there or he's done.
Right.
And that's when AB said, "I guess I'm done." So those are the scenarios. But overall, my perspective is this: I believe there's a right and wrong way to handle adversity and situations. There's a right and wrong way to handle when things don't necessarily go your way, right? And I don't believe Antonio Brown handled it the way or the best way it could have been handled. Now we can argue about the nuance of the details. We can argue about motive and all that kind of stuff, all we want, right? But regardless, what did we see? Perception is damn near reality these days, if not the absolute reality. So if we see that from a bird's eye view, we see Antonio Brown ripping off his pads and jersey and taking off his shirt, doing
Jumping
laps,
jacks.
jumping jacks and laps in the rear end zone, throwing stuff
Right.
into the fans, throwing up the peace sign, jogging out of there. Well, from the bird's eye view, from the naked eye, how bad was your ankle, right? But there is levels to an injury. Sometimes you can have a bad ankle, but you can walk around, you can jog,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not necessarily in condition to do football activity with your cuts and your comeback routes and all that kind of stuff. The constant stopping and going and
Blocking
accelerating and
times.
hitting the brakes,
Yeah.
blocking, all that kind of stuff. Right? People falling on your ankle, whatever it may be. There are some things that makes that a little bit more complicated. But once again, I'm not a fan of how he handled it. I'm a firm believer in decorum. I'm a firm believer in
Yeah.
moving with a certain level of dignity and just moving with a bit of tact. There was no discretion there. There was no tact. There was no
Professionalism. He's
professionalism. Perfect. Yeah, perfect.
yeah, he's got to remember that he is a pro. He's got to act a certain way, no matter how emotional he may get at times. And if what he said was true, if there is some truthfulness to that, then he has a reason to be upset. But I agree with you 100%, Tone. The way he conducted himself was completely unprofessional, and he should have handled it in a better way. He should have just been like, okay. He should have just been walked into the locker room kindly and got on the phone with the players union. That should have been his. That's what they're there for, And when you act that way, you're just making it that much harder in your career. That you're taking money out of your pocketbook, so to speak. Is any potential contract that he's going to get in the future is definitely going to have a lot of stipulations, let's say, in it, in regards to his behavior and things like that. I can almost guarantee you. So, could he have handled it better? Obviously, yes, he could have. Did the coaching staff, especially Bruce Arians, get enough blame for what took place? I don't think so, because this definitely wasn't handled in the right way on either side. And to cut a guy mid-game like that because he says he's too injured, that's absolutely crazy to me. It really is. And I just I really hope that first and foremost, AB tries to really calm things down with himself. I know he does a lot on social media and things like that, but I just hope maybe the NFL can reach out and try to get him some help if he needs it.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing. If there is some underlying things going on, don't reach out to the necessary people, get some help. But sometimes when you're a larger than life individual,
Right.
sometimes when you're the type of person who's pretty much had it for such a long time, let's not forget Antonio Brown's upbringing into this league. He was, I believe, a 6th or 7th round draft pick, late, wasn't highly recruited in any way, grinded, busted his behind to get where he is. But there became a moment in his career where he started to sort of deviate from the AB we knew early on in Pittsburgh. Early on, he struggled, and you guys, I know we're starting to go a little deeper into this topic, but I think this is important to discuss because at the end of the day, these athletes are people, right? And they go through things like us. And this is football. And yes, this is the Birds of a Feather podcast. We are discussing the Eagles versus Cowboys matchup, but we also will be discussing the latest hot topics in the NFL. the current events, things that are going on, things that ultimately affect the landscape of the league. And this is something that can potentially alter it. AB has always been known as a hard worker, never cheated the game, but it seemed like he always cheated himself at times because of his overinflated ego, because of his belief of being his belief of being his belief that he's bigger than his teammates or the game itself. And when you think about the optics again, you think about the Raider situation. Then you think about the Pittsburgh situation, and he got cut from New England. That wasn't something he walked out on. Then you think about the Buccaneers situation. The optics will show you that you walked out on your teammates. I believe his final year or final game in Pittsburgh, from what I read, he completely skipped all organized activities that whole week and tried to show up to play the game. And Mike Tomlin was like, "What do you think this is, my man? Have a seat. You're not playing. This is not what you think it is."
Exactly. Yeah, Omar Epps' older twin was like, no.
Yo, that's crazy. They look exactly alike, by the way. That's crazy.
They really, really do. My wife first seen him. She's like, "Is that that actor?" And I was like, "No, that's the head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's Mike Tomlin. That's not Omar Epps." But yeah, they look exactly alike. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this affects the Buccaneers, down the stretch, because this couldn't happen at a worse time. Going into
absolutely
week 17 at the Jets. I mean, they were losing at the time. They barely scraped out that win last week.
And that's why I think there was a level of frustration or a level of intolerance on that sideline.
Yeah.
Because at that point, I think they were down at that point still.
Oh, yeah.
And they're trying to come back into this game. And now you're dealing with chaos on the sideline. Also, I believe Bruce Arians, also when you think about Bruce Arians' health as well, I think he's nursing an MCL or ACL tear or something like that. He just got a surgery not so long ago. So when you think about his state of mind, you're losing to the Jets. Your ankle was already your knee or your ankle was already bothering the hell out of you. It's cold outside.
And then supposedly your head coach gives you the Undertaker throat slash. I mean, and says you're done. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of employees out there that have left jobs and wish they could have went out with I mean, I'm not, like I said, I don't condone what he did, but I'm sure there's people that have been upset with their employers when they've left, and they wish they could have made a statement like he did walking out the door. You know what I mean? Whether it was just or not, we'll never know, because only people that really only know are the guys that could have heard the conversations on the sideline. But I mean, AB, he has the text messages that he was talking to Bruce Arians a couple of days before the game, letting him know that his ankle was definitely not 100%. So I don't know if it was an ongoing issue with.
So the text messages were released.
Yeah, I believe he did release some of them. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this situation just starts becoming more and more convoluted and interesting. And the Buccaneers can't really afford this level of distraction. And this brings me to BLS
max, I think.
Exactly. And this brings me to Jamal Matthews' question. Who do y'all want to see first round of the playoffs, Rams, Bucks, or Cards? And at this rate, I would much rather see the Buccaneers, because the Buccaneers seem compromised at this point. They're
very
dealing
much
with a lot of injuries on the offensive side of the ball. They've been struggling with stopping the run lately.
Yeah.
There's just been a lot going on within their organization right now on the cusp of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows where that organization is mentally right now or emotionally. Now, Tom Brady, he strikes me as someone who's going to be focused no matter what, but he's human as well. And I'm pretty sure he can do without this sort of distraction. You know what I mean? But I would much rather see the Bucks in the playoffs for my Philadelphia Eagles. And Trey Rock, what's going on, Trey Rock? Make sure you guys go subscribe to One Trey Rock. Real good dude, man. He does a lot of content with Bird Gang 31. Both good brothers, man.
Yep.
Make sure you guys go subscribe to One Trey Rock on YouTube. Real good brother. He says, I don't agree with AB's tactics, but every time he snapped out, he had a reason. It definitely appears that way. You know what I mean? So ultimately, I would much rather see the Bucks in the playoffs. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah. I mean, if we get a Bucks team that was struggling mightily against the New York Jets last.
Hey, Phil, you there? I think we're getting a little bit of that California lag, but yeah, the Buccaneers is a team that I would much rather face. I know a lot of things with the Buccaneers aren't necessarily looking so clear. Things are extremely turbulent with the Buccaneers. So it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. It's going to be very interesting to see how that turns out. We got 9 people in the live stream. Make sure you guys smash that like button. We would greatly appreciate that. You guys hitting that like button means so much to us. It helps the content grow. It helps us. It helps the podcast grow. You guys are truly a part of this family. That's another reason why we love the whole concept, the whole title of Birds of a Feather, because you guys are our birds of a feather. We're like-minded in this content game. You guys are family to us. You guys are a part of the fold. You guys are a part of this culture that we're building. And the content is not the same without you guys. So I want you guys to truly understand that and recognize your power. So make sure you guys smash that like button. Philly Foothills, we'll be back in a second. Just experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties, but at the end of the day, what's life without technical difficulties? Sometimes you have to go with the flow. Sometimes you just have to roll with the punches, and that's how we live it, man. That is exactly the Philly identity. That is the Eagles' identity, to roll with the punches, to fight through adversity, especially when we're doubted. And on a side note, Antonio Brown is experiencing some hard times right now, some adversity, but it all depends on how he responds. And ultimately, as it pertains to Philadelphia Eagles, we're in a situation right now where we're in the playoffs. There's a strong chance we're going to face the Bucks. They seem vulnerable, and we have to take advantage of that. So yeah, Foothills, I think you froze up when you were sharing your thoughts on who you would rather face.
Yeah.
So once again, like, who would you rather face in these playoffs?
Yeah, so I think if we get the as I was saying, and I apologize for my internet cut out there. I think if we get the Bucks that struggled against the Jets last week, I think you're right, Tone. I think they would be our best chance of getting a W in the wild card round. With Tom not having his receivers, I mean, even Mike Evans isn't he injured, or he's been in on and off the injured list?
I think he's banged up as well.
Yeah, so they're definitely, like you said, they're definitely compromised. They're definitely vulnerable. They don't have their bell cow. They don't have Fournette. That's something huge that Tom needs as part of his arsenal. But because Tom likes to do those checkdowns, and if he doesn't have that guy in Fournette to kind of rely on, he's going to have to put more stress on Gronk. And I don't know. At times, Gronk has shown that, if he gets doubled, especially, or if guys play him real physically, things like that, especially, you give him some good shots, you can bang up Gronk a little bit. He's definitely had some injuries along his career, and he's had issues staying healthy at times, and he's no spring chicken like Tom is. So,
right.
I definitely think the Bucks give us our best chance. I agree with that. Tom is not mobile. His offensive line has protected him pretty well this year, but he's also took some sacks as well. And I think
pick sixes. He's I think he's thrown about 12 interceptions this year, 12 or 13 picks, and a handful of them, a few of them were pick sixes. So Tom Brady, yes, he's talented, he does his thing, but he's not above throwing an interception or making a bad decision. We just need to make a play.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, that their secondary has sustained a lot of injuries as well. So he's having to press more. He's having to come back. They don't have those cushy leads where they can just run the ball and sit on the clock. That's why he's having to throw the ball more, and you're seeing him throw some interceptions this year. So, yeah, I think they would present us our best chance getting that
Absolutely.
dub, moving on to the divisional round.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's the a very interesting concept. Us getting through to the divisional round, because we weren't necessarily supposed to be here. You think about how this season has went. Think about the last time we played the Cowboys. We were a far cry from where we are today. When we lost to the Cowboys, that put us at 1-2, and we got smacked tremendously. Things were manageable in that first quarter, and things just got away from us in that second quarter. We allowed them to score 6 points, putting them up 20-7 on us, and then going to halftime, we're down 13 points, and then at that point they put up another 7. So at that point now it's 27. We scored a touchdown, so it's 27-14, and we just couldn't keep up with the offense. We were behind the 8 ball from the very beginning, and there was no continuity to the offense. We weren't running the ball, and that game, believe it or not, we only ran the ball 12 times as a team. And then as far as the running backs goes, the running backs only ran the ball 3 times. 3 times. Miles Sanders had 2 catches. 2 rushes. Kenny Gainwell had 1.
Wow.
And Miles Sanders' first run was for 24 yards. Can you imagine if was touching the rock? We only put up 64 rushing yards. They put up 160 on us. That is disrespectful. That's disgusting. That should have never happened that way. It should have never happened that way. And it was honestly, it was just god awful. It was god awful. And I don't want us to ever go back to that style of football again. Jalen Hurts threw that ball 39 times compared to Dak's 26 times. As a matter of fact, if you look at the stat line, you would think if you covered up both teams' names, you would think that our stats were the Cowboys stats and the Cowboys stats were our stats, because they ran the ball a total of 41 times in that game. They threw the ball 26 times. You know what I mean? They relied heavily on the run game. They were able to get it done. And then we relied heavily on the air game. It's so crazy how we've just entirely flipped the script. We're a totally different team as far as philosophy, as far as culture, as far as belief in who we are, as far as trust. What are your thoughts on that previous Cowboys matchup, and then how it stands today in this present moment?
Oh, I think there's going to be some. There's definitely going to be some Eagles looking for some retribution today. Definitely, and whether that's hitting a guy a little, with a little extra oomph, or making sure they get a good block on a certain player, or maybe a certain guy was talking some smack while the Cowboys were opening up that can of us on Monday Night Football earlier this year. Because a lot of these players have very good memories, and they don't forget easily, especially when they get embarrassed. Like you said, they get absolutely obliterated on national television, in front of the whole world. So I think that comparing the two teams from now to then, or from then to now, I should say, is, especially for us, when we're at our A game, it's a lot different, because we're running the ball way more than that. Like you said, our running backs only had 3 touches, which is absolutely insane. No wonder we got blown out, because we've seen it time and time again this year. When you put too much on Jalen's plate, when he has to play from behind, it's not going to bode well for this team. We need to be running the ball first and foremost, letting him play action off of that, letting him create outside of the pocket, and letting our defense set a tone on the other side of the ball, and keeping them getting themselves off the field, keeping themselves fresh on that, on the defensive side of the ball. So, I just think that, especially for us, we're a different team, and I think the Cowboys are, to an extent, as well. I think their defense has gotten better as the year has come along, because they now have three very, very talented pass rushers, and but on the offensive side of the ball, they've had definitely some ups and downs as late, and Zeke, Pollard, and the offensive line, they definitely don't look nearly as dominant as they have in the past.
Right. I feel that. Now, let's get into the roster situation. Let's get into the people who should play and people who shouldn't play. Now, based off of what I'm seeing here, Miles Sanders will be out. Boston Scott will be out. Jordan Howard will be out. I'm also seeing that Dallas Goedert will be out. Jack Stoll will be out. I'm also seeing that Nate Herbig will be out. Lane Johnson is questionable, but 9 times out of 10 he won't play. On the defensive side of the ball, I'm saying Fletcher Cox will be out. Alex Singleton will be out. Jannard Avery will be out. Brandon McLeod will be out. Avonte Maddox will be out. Marcus Epps will be out. So that's what as it appears to me. Now that can potentially change. We have several hours before the game starts.
Right.
But right now, that's just what it looks like, for us.
Because they're going into because the rule change, they're going into the 5th day today. So if they clear COVID, then they could potentially play tonight.
Right.
It is the 5th day.
Right. Now for the Cowboys on the offensive side of the ball, I'm seeing Tony Pollard out. I'm seeing Michael Gallup on IR. He tore his MCL, I believe, or his ACL, one or the other, on that touchdown catch.
Yeah.
I'm seeing left tackle Tyron Smith out. On the defensive side of the ball, I'm seeing Michael Parsons out, Anthony Brown out, their corner, Jaron Kearse, their safety, out, Trevon Diggs, their corner, out. I'm also seeing Donovan Wilson, another safety who's questionable, Francis Bernard, a linebacker who's out. So we have a lot more people who appear to be out or who may not play. Remember, I mentioned that the Cowboys potentially may start a lot of guys. It all depends on how things play out. They may treat this like a preseason game. I know we discussed that part of it as well. But, overall, I think the Eagles, it's funny how once we clinched, all of a sudden you saw 12 guys hit the COVID list. That was very interesting to me. Now, I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist, but I just thought that was such an interesting timing. What do you think?
Well, we also you have to take into account, we also just came off our second game against the Washington football team, who have been riddled with COVID as of late. So, in my opinion, the NFL just needs to stop saying, literally, they need to stop with the nonsense of saying that COVID is not spread during the games, because if 12 guys actually came into contact or tested positive for COVID on our squad that quickly, that right after playing the football team, I mean, come on, one thing points to the other, right?
For sure. And once again, you guys, we are live on 2 YouTube channels. We are live on Chalk It Up Sports Philly, and we are also live on the Nest Out West with my man Philly Foothills. Make sure you guys subscribe to both channels. Make sure you guys smash the like button on both channels if you can.
Please.
It really helps the content grow.
Yes, sir.
We got 14 people in total in this live stream, so we're super grateful for you bird brains. We're super grateful to you guys.
You guys are the food and water, that, like I always say, the food and the water of the channels.
For sure. So, there's not really much to really get into as it pertains to this game, right? We can obviously discuss the rivalry. The Eagles Cowboys rivalry has always been one to behold, arguably the biggest rivalry in all of football. But it doesn't, coming up into this week, it didn't feel like Dallas week. And I'm going to be at the game, by the way, you guys. I'm going to be live streaming down there. I'm going to be, just giving you guys pure energy. But, it doesn't feel like a rivalry game in any way. It doesn't feel like Dallas week. It just doesn't have that same gravitas. You know what I mean? How do you feel about this week?
Yeah, I've been having that kind of same feeling as well. Trying to trying to conjure up those like you said, those rivalry feelings, that hatred that you have for a specific football team. That's
and it is hatred. It is so
yeah.
true.
It's a rating. It's a rating, not a logo. I mean, but, that's it just doesn't have that feel to it. And I guess we can kind of blame the NFL to an extent for putting this game this late in the season, because they should have known that there's a good chance that one or two or both of these teams could possibly be resting their starters, because if they wanted a very good, tough fought, all the starters in from beginning to end type of battle, then they should have put this, a few weeks earlier. They really should have. We should be playing the football team today, and we should have played the Cowboys, a few weeks earlier.
Absolutely. But this is something that's actually pretty new in the NFL. They're starting to backload all these division games because they understand that they have true playoff implications, true divisional crown implications. And I'm not actually against that in any way. You sprinkle them in the beginning of the season, maybe in the mid, and then you backload about three straight divisional games for all these teams. You know what I mean? I'm actually a fan of that. It's definitely been something that's been very pivotal in the NFC East, especially. But I'm also glad for the extra playoff game. Shout out to Daniel Belfield for bringing up that great point. I'm really grateful for the extra playoff game, the extra playoff spot. The extra in-season game as well. The more football we have, the better. And it's funny because there was a point in time where I think there was only about 14 games in the season, and then it became 16 somehow, and now it's 17. Like, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised.
Before long, it'll be 20. Yep.
That was my point.
I guarantee probably by 2030, you're gonna see probably one preseason game, if even that. You probably just have some in practice scrimmages and things like that, but you'll have a 20-game regular season.
Right, or they may increase the roster size, because at first that was something we thought they would do, especially coming into the season.
Right.
But I think it would be really cool.
Oh, Philly pop, with the $10 donation.
Whoa,
Fuego one right there. I'm sorry, I had to stop.
Hey, Foothills, I need some sound effects for this one, baby boy.
Pop right there. Popping it off.
Ooh. Okay.
There we go.
Philly pop with the $10 super chat. Philly pop is in the building, dropping dimes like he AI, dropping dimes like he Bron James. Oh man. Okay, he says true that about Coach Tomlin and Omar Epps. What's up to you and your guests? Well, this is my co-host, my man. This is my brother in arms. But Philly Pop, we really appreciate the super chat, my man. This is my man Philly Foothills from the Nest Out West. Make sure you go subscribe to his channel as well. The link is available down below in the description if you want to support not only me, but support my man Philly Foothills from the Nest Out West. Go lock in on his content. He does great content, gives you live streams throughout the week, a lot of collaborations, really just great energy. That's why we're co-hosting this. That's why we're birds of a feather in this in this thing. But Philly Pop-Up also says, recently a guy said you look like a wrestler. I think me and your dad look alike. What do you think? Wait, listen, man. It's funny because when you black with a bald head, you could find similarities amongst a lot of people. You know what I mean? But so funny, man. But Philly Pop, thank you so much, man, for the support as always. You lock in on the content habitually. You always donate to the channel. You donate to the content. You help my dreams become a reality. Just so grateful for your energy, sir. So thank you so much for being a part of the show. My man, we're super grateful for this. But again, make sure you subscribe to my man, The Nest Out West. The link is available down below in the description. It'll take you no time at all to hit that link, hit subscribe, come back. You know what I mean? Make sure you smash the like button on both channels. Takes no effort. You know what I mean? But super grateful to you, Philly Pop, for donating to the channel. You are truly appreciated. You are the Don Dada today. Jeremiah Butler, my man, he said it's cool. They had the right idea, just didn't work out the way they thought. Although it was close, but it still works for other divisions. Yeah, it definitely works. It definitely works for other divisions. Backloading all those divisional games. But yeah, uh, this is where were we? Shoot, man, I was beautifully distracted by Philly Pop Pop's donation.
We were talking about the extra playoff game. We were talking about
Right.
Bowl. Yeah, we had touched on the Chargers playing or not.
Right. Like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if we get to a point where it's 20 season games and then you increase the roster size. I think at that point you have to increase the roster size. You have to.
Yeah. You have to.
Or increase the practice squad size, whatever it may be. I feel like at that point you have to. And then start paying these guys more money. They're giving you more product. You have to, supply and demand.
Yeah. I mean, I think you would definitely at the bare minimum you would have to expand the roster, the practice squads. You really would. You wouldn't necessarily have to give more guys on game day because that seems to be pretty manageable with the 53. But yeah, the practice squad would have to get bigger. That's for sure. And because there's going to be that many more injuries. But I mean, if that happens, you're going to. I mean, like we saw this year, records are being destroyed with this extra game. So if you add another one or two more onto it, records are just going to keep getting set, keep getting obliterated. It's going to be fun to watch too because it's going to be like a new era in the NFL. As these players, I understand it's like a double-edged sword for them. They don't want longer seasons because of the attrition, but they don't mind it because of the coin in their pocketbook. So,
right.
it's kind of a catch-22.
Yeah, and I definitely don't see football going beyond a certain point as far as games because the sport is just too physical for it to be played at the rate of like basketball and hockey. Not saying hockey isn't physical.
Or they'd have to start the season earlier.
Right. And not saying hockey isn't physical because hockey is extremely physical.
Right.
Almost as physical as football, right? But those guys, man, it's like football. You can't have. I feel like the most because right now we're at 17 games. Honestly, if I'm being realistic, I think the most we might ever see is maybe 18 games, and I don't see it. And this 17 game thing is still fairly new. So I don't think we're going to see this for maybe like another 10, 15 years. You never know.
Yeah. It's definitely going to take time because they're going to have to see for probably at least 4 or 5 years how this 17 weeks season goes, these years go. So it's going to take time. It's going to take them to, go through all the analytics and all that, all the, analysis of all the percentages of games watched and things like that. Just there's going to be a lot of data for them to process. So it's going to be a minute for them to figure it all out.
Absolutely. But we mentioned the additional playoff game, right? And the seeding so far is looking very interesting, and a lot of things can change after today. That's the beautiful thing about this season, man. Things can just shift on you in a split second. Like, just look at this right now. Look at the way things are panning out. Like, this looks wild. All these teams are pretty much within a game of each other, especially in the AFC. The AFC is more tight than the NFC right now. After the fifth seed, in the NFC, there's a clear drop off of like 2 games. But when you think about,
I don't think the Titans even have the first round locked up yet, do they? I think they have to win this weekend.
They have to win. They have to win. Otherwise,
if they lose and Kansas City wins, then Kansas City's going to move in to the number 1 and get the bye.
Right. Now, here's the thing. What if the Titans and Kansas City lose? Then all of a sudden the Bengals jump up and may snatch that bye.
Possibly. Because the Bengals all have the same record, and they beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
They beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or the Bills. The Bills can possibly jump up if all those top 3 teams lose, or the Patriots, right? I don't see that necessarily happening. But, right now, in my humble opinion, I think the most the most likely to either get that first round bye will be either the Titans or the Chiefs. Now, I'm not sure who they play. I'm not sure who they play at all, but let me check this out real quick. So
I got the NFL schedule up in front of me. Yeah.
Kansas City plays Denver today. They're going to win that game.
Yeah.
I strongly believe that's going to happen. They're going to win that game.
I mean, depending on how many starters they play, and the Titans have the Texans, so they both have pretty easy opponents.
Right.
I'm sure they're going to play their starters because they do have quite a bit to play for.
Exactly. And did the Chiefs play the Titans at any point this season? Yes, they did, and they lost. Wow.
Okay.
The Chiefs played the Titans earlier in the season. They played them in week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They played them in week 7, and they lost 27-3. They got smacked. So even they need the Titans to lose in order for them to.
What week did you say?
I think that was week 7.
Week 7, okay. That was back when the Chiefs were definitely going through a little bit of a.
That was a game before their win streak. Yep, yeah. That was a game before their 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 game, 9 game win streak. That was they went on a hell of a streak. Right, after that, and they beat some quality opponents.
Yeah, we'll see if that bodes well for them or not, because some teams catch fire too early, and then they kind of fizzle out in the playoffs. So
very good point.
We'll see. Kind of like the like the Dolphins. I know they're not in the playoffs right now, but I mean, hell, they went from losing 7 in a row to winning 7 in a row. They're the first team to ever do that. And hell, I mean, you never know. Their coach may get coach of the year for that reason.
I think coach of the year might end up being Mike Vrabel. When you think about him, if they secure the number 1 seed, if they secure the number 1 seed, losing the foundation of their offense and Derrick Henry, and that's another thing. Tennessee is scary. They maintain competitiveness. They've maintained their number 1 seed, and they lost Derrick Henry, and they could still get him back. They're dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, Vrabel's a great shout. I wouldn't be mad at that. I wouldn't be mad at Zach Taylor from the Bengals, and I wouldn't be mad at Sirianni getting it either. Obviously, I mean, being an Eagles fan, he's done. We went from 2-5 to possibly 10-7, maybe 9-8. We'll see how it plays out tonight. But,
right.
I mean, and of course, Brian Flores should get an honorable mention too in Miami, I think. But yeah, I mean, Zach Taylor. Shout out to AK because that was his pick for coach of the year, and he's done some great things with the Cincinnati Bengals because they've gone from worst to first, I believe, in that division.
No, you're right. They've it's crazy. They completely turned their season around. Now, granted, Joe Burrow got hurt last year, so you can't really put too much on them. But they didn't have Jamar Chase, and the offensive line wasn't as reliable as it was this year. They still need to improve the offensive line, in my opinion. But that defense,
Did you see that line that Jamar Chase put up last week?
Oh my God, goodness. Unbelievable. I'll be honest. At first, I thought the Bengals made a terrible mistake by drafting a wide receiver over an offensive lineman and Penny Sewell over Rashawn Slater, because Rashawn Slater and Penny Sewell look like home run picks, right? But
yeah, you weren't alone in that feeling either. There was a lot of people that felt that way.
Right, but Jamar Chase, even though Penny Sewell and Rashawn Slater looking like home runs, Jamar Chase is looking like a grand slam because he's been smashing records left and right, just bullying his opponents. And he's still so raw. He still probably hasn't even reached. He's still like just his fundamental or technical prime. You get what I mean? Because once you get deeper into deeper into the NFL, you start to find more creative ways of beating guys. And he was just
abusing that secondary last week. I mean, he had 11 catches for 266, averaging over 24 yards a catch and 3 tutties. I mean, good night. He was abusing Kansas City last week. It didn't matter who they put on him. They could put the whole defense on him. He was still catching balls.
Yeah, you're right. And Kansas City has a very shaky defense, especially when they're missing guys like Chris Jones. They're not the same team.
Yeah,
They're
they're
not
up
the
and
same
down.
team at all.
They've had their good and bad moments this year, that's for sure.
For sure, for sure. But this is going to be a really interesting playoffs. What are your if things stay, let's just say for the sake of argument, things stay exactly as they are, right? Like this is the seeding. How do you see things shaking out? Let's go matchup by matchup, right? So the wild card round. Let's start with the AFC, and then we'll make our way over to the NFC and top it and end it with the Eagles, and then we'll make it, and then we'll go divisional round, and like that. Okay,
Okay.
so AFC Chargers at Chiefs. Who do you think comes out of that game? Because the Chiefs and the Chargers had an instant classic earlier in the season on Thursday Night Football. They had
Yeah.
a Madden classic. So what are your thoughts on the number 2 seed Chiefs going up against the number 7 seed Chargers?
Well, I mean, they always have home field advantage. I don't think they call it Arrowhead anymore, but I mean that stadium is always loud, crazy place to play. So, I mean, I think it would make it that much extra of a challenge for Justin Herbert and that offensive line to, really function that offense at a high level. And I think Andy Reid would, you know, use his veteran coaching experience to and lean on his talent that he knows he has and Kelsey and Hill and let Mahomes do his thing, have balance on offense, play that bend but no break kind of type of defense. And I see Kansas City winning pretty easily. I think they win by at least 10 points.
Interesting. Now, what about that Bengals Colts matchup? I think that's going to be interesting. Honestly, if I'm being completely honest with myself, I think the Bengals win that one by 2 possessions.
Mm,
I know the Colts have a very good defense. They have that stout running game,
right.
but I don't trust Carson Wentz with the pressure at his highest. I just don't right now. He hasn't necessarily proven that this season that when the pressure is all on him, can he throw you out of a game? I know he's been relying heavily on that run game, and that's okay. They've kind of had him in that Ryan Tannehill role. Let the running game do their thing, and you throw the ball when we need you to throw the ball. But one game that comes to mind, I think it was a Tennessee game earlier on in the year. He
Mhm.
threw two interceptions in like 4 minutes.
Right.
End up causing an overtime, and they threw an interception in overtime and cost them the game. So I just think the Bengals have more weapons on offense, especially in the passing game. They also have Joe Mixon, who's a very, very good running back as well. So it's going to be a very competitive game at first, but I think the Bengals ultimately pull away. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it would be pretty close. I think it would be closer than you think, actually. I think it would actually come down to a one possession game, being that the Colts won't have to ask Carson Wentz to do too much. And I think Jonathan Taylor will be able to eat pretty well. I think he'll be able to get pretty full against the Bengals defense. They've been susceptible at times against the run this year. So I think the Colts will be able to keep their defense fresh. And I think they'll also be able to get some pressure on Burrow. So I think the Bengals do win, but I say they only win by a touchdown or less.
Hmm. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
what about this Patriots Bills matchup? This one is actually I'm looking forward to this one. Believe it or not, I'm looking forward to this one a little bit more than the others because of the the nature of it, right? They're going to if it stays as it is, Patriots are going to be going to Buffalo again, and 9 times out of 10 it might be snowing. And we saw what happened last time. The Patriots just beat them into submission with the running game.
Right.
Now, it's going to be interesting because it's hard to throw that ball in Buffalo when it gets cold. But a guy like Josh Allen has the arm to do so, and that's why they drafted Josh Allen. Sometimes you have to draft your quarterback based off of just his pure attributes and as it relates to the to the terrain. And You know, you can't be a game manager playing for the Buffalo Bills. You got to be a gunslinger. You got to be able to throw that rock in all conditions. That's going to be an interesting game. But I think ultimately, I think the Bills redeem themselves and beat the Patriots. What do you think?
Yeah, that one's good. That one's a little tougher to call, definitely, because
For sure.
Belichick's going to have that defense ready. Buffalo doesn't have much of a run game to speak of, so they're going to have to rely on Josh Allen to do a lot with Stephon Diggs and company. So, I'm going to say the Patriots win in an upset, and they win by. I'm going to say that one's also going to be a close one. It's going to be a one possession game.
Yeah, and for the record, I think whoever wins that game, it's by a field goal. I honestly think that. I think it's a game clinching field goal. One of those teams drive down the field.
Yeah, neither one of those teams are going to get blown out.
Exactly.
They have too good of defenses to do so. So yeah, I don't see either one of those offenses really putting up huge numbers on either one of those defenses. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it'll be a very, very close game at the end.
Right. Now, what do you think about this Cardinals Cowboys matchup? I think this is going to be interesting as well. I'll be honest with you. I think the Cardinals steal it again in AT&T. Kyler Murray is undefeated in AT&T Stadium. I think they do it again. But like when you think about the chemistry between Kyler Murray and his weapons right now, but you also think about the Cowboys' weapons as well. It's not going to be as simple. It's not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
But it's going to be competitive. I know that for a fact it's going to be competitive. But I just think the Cardinals have the Cowboys' number, especially in AT&T.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think Kyler is he's in the head of that defense, and I think Dak struggles against the Cardinals. So yeah, I'm taking the Cardinals in that one as well. I say they win by. It'll be fairly close by a touchdown.
Touchdown or less. I feel you.
Yeah.
I feel you. And that's the thing. This play football. These games are going to be close.
Yeah.
It's if someone gets blown out, it's because they just didn't show up. These games are going to be close. But 49ers at Buccaneers, I think that game is going to be extremely close. I actually don't think it's going to be that high scoring either. I think the score is going to be in the 20s. And honestly, I really wouldn't be surprised if the 49ers just happen to steal it. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see.
It definitely is.
But, what's your thoughts on it? Then we'll get to that Eagles game, and then we'll start to close out the show and get into some quick keys and bowl predictions, and we can get a score prediction, and we'll get out of here.
Okay. Yeah. The Niners going to Tampa Bay, that would probably be a very, very close game as well. I think. I think the Niners would be able to control the clock by running the football against Tampa Bay. So I could see them going in and winning in Tampa Bay by a touchdown or less. These are all going to be real close games, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
And then Eagles at Rams. I've never wanted to bet against my team. That's just not who I am. I've never been that guy to say, "Oh, we have no chance." That's just not how I speak.
Right.
I think just because we're such a physical team, because we're more physical than they are, we have to bring them to our world. We have to out physic. We have to play with a higher sense of urgency, more physicality if we want to beat that kind of team. That team has a lot of weapons all across the board. Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham, those guys are not slouches at all. And then on top of that, Matthew Stafford, even though he's very great at what he does, he's been struggling as of late. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. What's your thoughts on this Rams Eagles matchup, if that's the case in the playoffs, wild card round?
Yeah, they definitely don't scare me, especially how they've looked as of late. They barely scraped by the Vikings.
The Ravens.
and then they barely scraped by the beat up Ravens. And yeah, Matthew Stafford's been he's been giving a lot of. I guess he was feeling generous during the holiday season, giving a lot of gifts away to the opposing teams, like pick sixes for Christmas, I guess. But
right.
Yeah, if we play the Rams, hopefully that continues. And I don't sweat them on either side of the ball. They've looked beatable as of late, and I could see us going into the Coliseum and winning by. I mean, going into LA and beating the Rams by probably be a close game, maybe a field goal, but a touchdown at most.
Right. I guess the important thing is to just go into that game and try your hardest not to get behind by too much. That's the biggest thing, really. If we fall behind by a large margin,
yeah,
that's going to be hard. And I think they're getting their number one running back back this week, Cam Akers.
Okay,
coming back off I think an Achilles rupture or something like that, or an ACL tear that he did in the off season, something like that.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep our eye on as well. But that's just if the seating remains the same. I highly don't think it will remain the same, if I'm being honest. I actually think that we're going to end up facing the Buccaneers, if I'm just being completely honest with you. But let's transition, to our keys to victory. What are your keys to victory for this Cowboys-Eagles matchup in Week 18? A game that doesn't mean much to people, but means everything to us.
Right. Keys to victory: take care of the football. Don't lose the turnover battle. Will be number one for me. We can't play from behind, and we can't give them any, short fields, things like that. So, take care of the ball. Win the turnover battle is number one. Number two would be, get some pressure on the quarterback, whether it's Dak at the beginning and then it goes to Cooper Rush after that. Get him off the ball. And then third would be special teams stepping up. And that's, if we have to flip the field and play defense, we do that. So those are my keys.
I actually agree with you 150% on all those things. Win the turnover battle. Don't give them short fields. I completely understand that. And then as far as bowl predictions, what are your thoughts on bowl predictions? Because, I think this is going to be a game where we see Kenny Gainwell go off. I think this is going to be a game where Quez Watkins does his thing. There's these young guys are going to come in now. It's going to be real interesting to see how that goes. Who knows? Tyree Jackson may get a touchdown. JJ Arcega-Whiteside might get a touchdown. This is such a strange game. It's kind of hard to make any bold predictions. But one thing that I'm pretty keen to see. I want to see Kenny Gainwell snap. I want to see Kenny Gainwell get a lot of touches today. And I want to see Quez Watkins get a lot of targets today as well. In addition to that, for my score prediction, I believe that this game is going to be relatively low scoring. I think this is actually going to be one of those games. I think it's going to be a game where we see maybe a 24-21 scorecard. I think that's very possible. Again, it all depends on, when starters, if the starters start or whatever that may be. It truly all depends. But, real quick before we get out of here, man, do you have a bold prediction, and what's your score prediction?
Let's see here. Bold prediction is going to be that Gardner Minshew throws a winning touchdown within the last 2 minutes of the game for the victory.
Okay. Anybody in particular he's throwing the ball to, or you just want to keep it open ended?
It's gonna be Tyree Jackson.
Ooh, I like that.
He's gonna be getting starting reps at tight end today. So yeah,
I like that. Go. I like that. And since I know we're short on time, what's your score prediction? For me, I said 24-21 Eagles.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be relatively low in that area.
Yeah.
And that's if it goes to the 20s.
I'm thinking so too. I think it's going to be like I'm going to say the Eagles win. I'm going to say we win 21-16.
Interesting. So you think Jonathan Gannon's defense holds another team to below 20 points?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're not going to see much of Dallas' starters today, so I don't think Cooper Rush and company are going to be able to put up much on our defense.
Understood, man. I
Our
feel
backups
that,
are better than theirs.
I like that, man. And on that note, my guy, as always, I'm grateful for you. You know, the Birds of a Feather the podcast is absolutely lost without the undying support that we have from the people. You know,
Definitely.
as we always do, we got to shout out the people that show us love. Shout out to Message from a Golden Eagle. Shout out to Jeremiah Butler. Shout out to Further AM. Shout out to Philly Pop Out with a $10 super chat. Shout out to Daniel Belfield. Shout out to Reed223. One Trey Rock. Shout out to Nightings. Shout out to BLSG. Shout out to Jersey G. Shout out to Rock the Artist. Shout out to Jamal Matthews, Jalen Williams, Jordy Fighter. So grateful for you guys for locking in on the content and just supporting us, man. The content is absolutely nothing about you guys. Philly Foothills. Any final words before we got here?
You know, just wanted to say that Jordy Fighter, if you're still listening, you're going down this weekend in the championship. No, best of luck, Jordy. Definitely. Yeah, love and appreciate all you guys in the chat and all the support that you guys give us. You know, you are the absolute food in the water to the channel. Without you, it does not continue to survive. So if you're feeling the vibe, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to not only myself, Philly Foothills Fuego in the Nest out west out here in Cali, but also my guy, Tone DeShields of Chalk It Up Sports Philly. We have collabed. We have made this thing, Birds of a Feather, the podcast. I love the title. Sure. I love the energy, and I can't wait to continue to do this thing with you, guy.
For sure, my man. And as you guys already know, I'm here with my brother in arms, Philly Foothills from the Nest out west. And I am your guy, Tone DeShields II from Chalk It Up Sports Philly, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. One love, stay humble, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay hungry. And fly goes fly, y'all. And we out of here.